right. Welcome to Women in the Nude, where we expose everything except for our bodies. We'll leave that to your imagination. I'm beyond thrilled that I have this guest right next to me. This is Candace Nelson. You might know her from a plethora of things. Maybe Sprinkles, the cupcakes, which, by the way, they are the only cupcakes that I like. I'm very picky.
I'm honored.
They are the best. But you have another restaurant. You've got a book. You're on Shark Tank. We'll talk about all these things. But Candace is a brilliant and beautiful human.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, it is my pleasure. It's been a while since we've been in person together. Actually, since the Sugar Rush days.
Yeah, I was a guest on Sugar Rush, and you were wonderful and so welcoming.
Thank you.
But I was pregnant, and no one knew yet.
My gosh, that's so funny.
So Candace just met my son, who just turned 3.
He's such a doll.
Isn't that wild that was
so crazy?
Right before COVID and all that.
I wonder how you felt after eating all those cupcakes, because I remember being pregnant when I was on Cupcake Wars with my son, and we would go through a round of tasting and I would just feel him like kicking in my belly, like from all the sugar.
I was pretty new, so I wouldn't have been able to feel him yet.
Right.
But I mean, yes, whenever I had sugar, that's definitely what would happen. But I did wonder, this is a total side note, but when we were trying that one cake, you've tried so many that you might not remember this, but it was this giant iceberg, and it was like a turmeric flavor. And I remember loving it. And I remember you being like, I don't know about this. And you were super nice about it. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I wonder if that was like a pregnant palate thing.
Where things were tasting differently to you.
Things were tasting different. That definitely, I mean, I like turmeric, but turmeric cake, I know.
Yeah.
So I think
I love I think it's great. I remember the design of the cake. I don't remember the flavor, but it's always so hard because of course it's personal preference.
Right. Absolutely.
But I think, when people come on these shows, they really are like, on any sort of art, right? You're giving your heart.
Yeah.
And I have such respect for people who are putting themselves out there and creating and doing, and less respect sometimes for the critics. But that was my role on the show, is to be a critic. And so always trying to, maneuver with kindness.
I think you always gave like such incredible criticism, though. Like, it was productive. It was never something that was, I think, unnecessary or mean or anything like that. I think, and you have so much wisdom to give.
Thank
I think what happens too is those guests come on and they want to take a risk, or they want to do something crazy to stand out. So but I just now
that's a great memory. I love that.
That had to have been it. But so that was the way that we met, which was
that was really fun.
It was so fun.
You were such an amazing guest, and I mean, you're such an incredible chef in your own right. Cookbook came out soon after that, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm definitely a self-taught home cook, but
the best
I love entertaining, and that's my love, and so I so respect you and what you do.
Thank you.
And okay, so I guess we should just dive right in.
Let's dive in.
So Sprinkle started in 2005.
Yes.
Correct?
Sprinkle started in 2005. Beverly Hills was the first location, right in the heart of Beverly Hills.
No big deal. Yeah.
Big deal.
And I mean, I should be letting you talk about this, but I was going to say, Sprinkles, cupcakes. I don't think I've ever tasted a cupcake that great. Like, it is the only cupcake that I will indulge in.
Aww.
I have a sweet tooth, but like, man, no one does cupcakes like you. I don't know what your secret recipe is. I'm not going to ask, because I don't want you to give it away. I want it to be, safe with you, but it really, it blew me away.
Thank you so much.
I still have friends that fly Sprinkles cupcakes in for, like, if it's not in their state, like, they fly it in for their birthday. Like, that's how much.
You're kidding.
It's insane.
Well, I'm honored. I'm truly honored. It was something that was really born out of a passion, because I started my career was in the corporate world. I was an investment banker. Then I went to work at an early internet startup. And then two things happened. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. So two things happened. So I was kind of following this path that I was supposed to be following. I'd, gone to a good college, and I'd gotten a prestigious job, and I was doing all the things that I thought I needed to do. And then the bottom fell out of the internet world. It was called the dot-com bust. It was like this is before your time, Sasha, but like early 2000s. And
I
and
was
then
dial up.
okay.
I know, yeah.
And then shortly thereafter, 9/11 happened. So not only was I out of a job and on the couch without any job prospects, I was then also in this like depression and sort of this like I was sort of self-searching, right? And I was incredibly introspective about like what was my place in this world? Like if everything could end tomorrow, like what was I really doing with my life? And so I had this epiphany that I wanted to do something more joyful and something that was just like sort of more simple in a meaningful way. And so I decided to go to pastry school instead of business school. And I just did this like hard left pivot off of my corporate track and started baking cupcakes out of my home kitchen. And then, finally found a location and went all in on the idea.
That's so cool. So cool. And in that way too, you had such a great business background as well.
Yes.
Which in retrospect, how helpful, that was definitely a blessing in disguise, I would imagine.
Totally. So helpful. Like sometimes you look at life and you think, well, that was a waste. Well, nothing's a waste, right? Yeah. Because you're learning at every step of the way. And it may not be like investment banking wasn't for me, but it certainly like gave me a lot of hard business skills that I was able to utilize later. Now, one thing I didn't have was any sort of restaurant or bakery experience.
Yeah, to be fair.
So my husband was my co-founder in the business and partner in the business. And we were definitely figuring that all out on the fly, like building the plane while we were flying it, so to speak. But we had faith in ourselves and we were like, we can do this. We can do hard things. Yeah. And it wasn't always pretty, but we figured it out ultimately.
And you figured it out together, which is,
yes.
I think, really special. And yeah, I mean, I do feel like it's definitely a drive thing, but I mean, restaurants, bakery, it's anything to do with food is notoriously one of the hardest businesses to have.
Very hard, very labor intensive, very physically grueling too. I think that's what people don't understand. We'd have a lot of people come into the bakery and, they were these petite, like creative souls. And I was like, this isn't really what you would be doing here. Like our menu is set and people are picking up like 100-pound bags of flour and sugar. Like this is really hard physical labor. So it was, and in the early days, long hours, like we had lines around the block and I had no idea what had hit me. Everyone had said, you're opening a cupcake shop in the middle of like health conscious Beverly Hills. No one is coming. And so we weren't prepared for the fact that we were kind of a success from day one. And so I had to scale up my recipes really fast. We were constantly sold out of cupcakes and we were just working around the clock just to, keep everyone happy. And there were nights when we like rolled up our aprons and just slept on the bakery floor.
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes like such a good success story.
Right.
You were just so committed. But so how long from when you graduated pastry school to opening Sprinkles?
So I'd say it was about 3 years. But a year of that time, we were looking for a location. Like it was actually hard to imagine now, but it was a hard time to find retail space because it was really booming. And so we ultimately ended up having to buy out a bakery. Actually, it wasn't a bakery. It was a sandwich shop in Beverly Hills. So not only did we have to pony up the money for the rent, but we also had to give key money to buy out the location. And we were like, oh my God, we're using all of our life savings. Like we didn't have any funding. We were bootstrapping this ourselves. So it was really scary. It really was, it's easy to look back now and say, oh, of course it was successful. No, like we had no idea. Everyone was telling us we were foolish. We left high-paying jobs and we were spending 10 times more than we ever thought we were going to spend on this space and renovations and all of that. So it was a huge risk, but we were all in.
It's amazing. Mm-hmm. It really is amazing. And I love that you just obviously just followed your passion. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's what everybody wants to do. Yeah. And doesn't necessarily have, the guts to do it or like the situation to do it. So that is just, it's so inspiring. And as a woman that has, so many ideas and, I've got some businesses that I'm trying to start and I love watching you and the way that you set that example. And that you're so open to talking about it.
Thank you.
And, and to support women too. I really do feel like, I feel that from you, that you want to give back in that way.
Thank you so much. I think mentorship is so important. And what's funny is when I was coming up in the world of entrepreneurship, there weren't that many female founders. Like that wasn't so much a thing just yet. And so mentorship wasn't something that I ever considered. I didn't really know about it. It wasn't the buzzword that it is now. We did have one mentor who was so kind. She was the mom of a friend of ours here in LA. She had a tiny bakery, and she would let us come over and eat her delicious chocolate chip cookies. And she would just tell us all the things we didn't know, like what equipment to buy, and what software to buy to schedule your staff, and how to find your team members, and all of that sort of nuts and bolts that we had no idea about. But today I feel like, this next generation is being raised with the idea that they need people around them, supporting them, cheering them on, not just one mentor, sometimes a board of mentors, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that there's that awareness right now, and I love being a mentor to so many women.
Yeah, that's incredible. Okay, again, I got so many questions, but
yeah, but sip of coffee.
I know, right? Yeah. At what point did you? I guess maybe more so the question is, was it hard to sell sprinkles? At what point did you?
Yes.
Did you do that?
So about 8 years into our journey, my husband and I, we went through a process to find a strategic partner, and we ended up selling majority of sprinkles to a private equity firm. And a lot of people still actually don't know that, because I will get DMs on Instagram like, I really wish you'd do this flavor, or, I got the wrong, flavor in my cupcake box today. I'm like, okay,
that's not my problem.
let me give you customer service email. No, but I love that. I love that, something that was so much a reflection of me and a part of me.
Yeah.
People still associate with me. That's really an honor. And I think, people are curious why. And there were a few reasons. One was my husband and I really consider ourselves more like brand builders and concept creators.
Yeah.
And granted, we had done as good a job as pretty much anyone at scaling the business. We had taken it from this one little location in Beverly Hills to 11 locations across the country. We'd come out with a cupcake ATM. And business was really booming. But at that point, we had young children who, I had up until that point been sort of toting around with me, which I know you do with Hendrix, and, going to open the New York store. Well, my kids are in tow, and my nanny is there. Right. And then going to open Chicago. Well, my kids are there too. But as they got older and, were entering school and had activities and birthday, that wasn't possible anymore. And I also wanted a little time. I needed a little break. As we talked about earlier, very grueling, long hours. And I didn't want to miss this really special time in their lives. But then also we felt like somebody else out there would be better at taking it from 11 to 50 than us. Because we're not true. Well, we are now, but at the time we weren't seasoned operators. So for those two reasons, business and personal, we stepped away from the business in, when was that? 2013, I think 2013. Yeah.
So I think that is also awesome that you had not only the feeling to want that for your family, but being willing to let go. Because I feel like that, I feel like that's so hard, or at least it would be so hard for me. I hope to get to that place.
Yeah.
That is, I feel like in business, the ultimate goal in one company is to get to the point where you can, kind of reap the benefits on a grand scale. And obviously you built something so wonderful that's so recognizable. And I again admire that, and what it takes to then, let go of something that you've built from the ground up. It's not even something that you bought into. It really is, you like you were saying. But did you feel closure in that time? Did you feel, or did it take a second for it to feel like the right decision?
So back when I was in investment banking, there was just sort of this model that people followed, the entrepreneurs that we worked with, who were mostly tech entrepreneurs, to be fair. But it was you started a company, you scaled it, and you sold it, or you took it public. That was the model, and that was the model of success. So that was kind of the mindset that I was raised in. And so when I, founded Sprinkles, it was successful. We, went with the momentum, we scaled it, and we found a strategic partner who was willing to buy into most of our company. I was like, wow, this is the dream.
Right.
But I was not prepared.
Yeah.
I was not emotionally prepared for how hard it would be. Even though it was what I wanted, even though it was a success story,
Right.
I was so identified, like overly identified with my business, which it's like, do I have a regret of that? No, because that was the beauty that Sprinkles. I poured so much of my heart and soul into it. That's what made it special, right? So I can't regret that for an instant. And I think I just wasn't necessarily prepared for what was next. I think I just thought, oh, I get to the finish line, sell my company, and then okay, that's it. Like happily ever after. And I was not prepared for the like deep sort of like like painful period of time that followed. Like, who am I? Everybody knows me as Mrs. Sprinkles. Like, what am I going to do next? Like, where am I going to pour my heart into next? I mean, besides my family, of course. And like, what is my value now? Right. So yes, I don't mean to sort of skirt over that whole period of time. It was really painful.
Sugarcoat it.
Yeah, sugarcoat it.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do talk about it in my book. Sweet Success is a book that I wrote about my Sprinkles story. And it's, really a guidebook for other all entrepreneurs, but I wrote it with women in mind, in terms of like coming up with an idea, everything from like how to name your business to brand it, to build a team that has great company culture, to ultimately stepping away and what does that look like?
Right.
And it's filled with all the stories of my time building Sprinkles, which there are some fun ones in there. But I go into it in my book, and honestly, it was the first time that I'd ever shared in such a vulnerable way how hard that period of time was for me.
Yeah.
And I think in writing, as writing is so therapeutic, right? It really was almost like therapy for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you have something that you did almost like, like a mental health self-care, like what got you past that, other than obviously, spending time with your family and that sort of thing? Like, what was your process? Maybe you didn't know at the time, but looking back, did you do something that helped?
I spoke to a coach. She called herself a coach. She was definitely a therapist. And she was incredible and was like, helped me to understand that just because I wasn't part of a successful business anymore didn't mean I was any less successful.
Right. Yeah.
Which sounds really obvious, but I guess I just didn't know that at the time. I was like, oh, I'm part of something successful, so that makes me successful. That like transfers, that's my self-worth. And so just to have that sense of self-worth that doesn't have anything to do with what your accomplishments or achievements are, like that was a learning curve for me.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense to me. And as far as therapy goes, like, were you raised that therapy was okay or it wasn't a weakness? Because I always grew up thinking that, not thinking, but I was taught that, therapy is a weakness, like something's wrong with you.
Yeah. I think, I don't know that I was necessarily, like, we didn't really talk about it. It was kind of a non-issue. I don't think my family looked down on it. I think I almost did, because I'm such a self-starter and I'm such a like, we're just going to do this and
I can fix it myself.
Yeah, I'm a problem solver and like I own my own stuff, right? And so, I don't know, I just felt like maybe I felt weak in not being able to handle my own stuff. And so, but therapy is a great thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. How did your kids adjust to it? Because they were little, all of a sudden, that must have changed for them too.
Yeah.
Did your dynamic, that adjustment, was that healthy too? Was that a good thing? Like, obviously it was a good thing, but
well, they definitely loved that I could drop them off and pick them up. Yeah. And I was definitely on campus a lot more. It's really funny though, because I think all they really noticed beyond that was just as long as there were still cupcakes in the house, everything was going to be fine. Right. I remember my younger son coming back home from grade school one day and he was like, Mom, do you get those Sprinkles cupcakes for free? And I was like, well, in a sense, like, yeah, we kind of pay for them, but no, we can pick them up and we can have a certain number of cupcakes or whatever for free. And he goes, well, then why don't we have them more around here? I was like,
hello, come
I know.
on, it's time. Yeah, that's really cute.
Yeah, because I think there was this idea that like at my house, just even amongst my friends, like, oh, there must just be the sugars like flowing all day long.
You
and
got
like,
a fridge of sprinkles
yes,
somewhere.
exactly. Yeah. Sprinkles, cupcakes, sprinkles, ice cream. It's all happening. No, I wanted the cupcakes to be a treat for my kids as well. So
yeah, that's so sweet. But also, kids are like your biggest critic.
Yes.
So it's also awesome that he loved it so much that he's like, well, where are they?
Yeah.
I need them.
Yeah. He's like calling me out on it. He's like, oh, I think his friends were like, I mean, you must have cupcakes all the time. And he was kind of like, actually, I don't. What's going on here?
Yeah. He's like, I need to be the cool house with the sprinkles, cupcakes. Yeah. That's adorable. To go back for just a second, the ATM thing, that was so brilliant. I'd never seen that before. I don't really even think it really exists elsewhere too.
Yeah.
Also, isn't that so hard when it comes to, because the cupcakes are always so fresh and so delicious and like everything that you would want and more out of a cupcake. How did that work?
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. Yes. It's brilliant.
Well, for people who don't know, the Cupcake ATM is like this 24-hour, like high-end vending machine, basically.
It's so cool.
With a touch screen, and all the cupcakes are in little, individual boxes in the back. And all the early cupcake ATMs actually opened, the back of them opened onto our bakery. So we could stock throughout the day. Now, a lot of them are, divorced from our bakery. So you'll find them like in airports, college campuses, that sort of thing. And we have somebody who supplies and stocks them every day. So not probably twice a day, or 3 times a day like we used to, but once a day. So they're still fresh and they're still better than anything else you'll get in an airport. And it's so cute because of all the things, sprinkles wise, I get the most pictures from sprinkles fans and friends of the cupcake ATMs. They'll be walking in the airport and they're like, thinking of you. And I get a little snapshot. But that came about, speaking of being pregnant and pregnancy cravings, when I was pregnant, actually, because I was having a craving for a cupcake. It was late at night and there were no cupcakes in the house. Sprinkles was closed. And I was like,
gotta do it.
Like, why can't I get what's the solution? Yeah. Right? The best businesses or the best innovations come when you're up against a wall and you're addressing a problem or a need that you yourself have. And so instead of just going to bed and like a normal person would, my husband and I were like batting around all these, ideas. What if ideas. And we came up with this cupcake ATM idea and it just took off. I mean, it just really captured people's imagination.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved that. I mean, it's amazing to see. I didn't even think it was possible. So when it arrived, it made dreams come true.
Yes.
It's magical. After you sold sprinkles and you adjusted to being at home, when were you ready to start your pizza restaurant?
Well, I wasn't exactly looking to go right back into the food business, but our chef at Pizzana, Chef Daniele Uditi, who comes from Naples, Italy.
So cool.
He found me. I was at a pizza party at Chris O'Donnell's house, actually. And he had become known for these like Sunday night pizza parties because this chef, Daniele Uditi, was just catering around the West Side. Mm-hmm. And Chris had put in like a wood burning pizza oven. And so he'd come every Sunday night and people would come and drink great wine and eat pizza. And so I was at one of these parties for the first time and I took one bite of this pizza and I was like, whoa.
What? Yeah. Who did this? Who
did this? And where is he? I need to talk to him. So I found Daniele over by the pizza oven. He ended up being a Sprinkles fan. I obviously was a fan of his pizza. We were just like very much sort of the same mind in terms of how we think about food, like taking things that are simple and then just elevating them with great ingredients and technique to a place where they're special. And he had this great origin story. And he then also happened to say, well, I've always had this dream to open my own restaurant. And I just could see it. Like I saw all the pieces come together. I was like, I can take you and your story and your pizza and I could build a brand around it. And I know where I'd put it because there's a need in Brentwood. And, it just all came together. And so before I knew it, I was like, let's do that together. I mean, it literally was like that business just sort of was born like the first time we met one another. It's like love at first sight. It was love at first bite. And so Pizzana opened a couple years later.
Awesome. Yeah. And by the way, amazing pizza.
Thank you.
Yeah, the quality and everything that you do is always there, and I appreciate that thought and how that comes about. It's more than, I feel like, just a brand. It's like a passion project.
Yeah, really, truly.
And I mean, like you said, that's what you need. That's what makes it work. Do you feel like, and it's great if you don't. So if you don't feel that way, I'm happy. But being on the corporate side and then owning your own business, building an extremely successful multiple businesses, do you feel like there was any resistance that since you were a woman? I love and hate this question because, obviously I'd rather that not be the case. But someone of your stature, like you're so successful. Did you feel that you had to, prove yourself more than maybe somebody else?
Potentially, yes. Because, it's funny. I actually initially wasn't sure I could go into baking for a career just because I had made it in the man's world. And that was still generally a period of time where women were, and we still are, but trying to break glass ceilings, right? And so here I was, I'd made it into like the corporate finance department of an investment bank. I was working in technology. Like I was like really shattering some glass ceilings.
Absolutely.
So it took me a moment to kind of come to terms with the fact that it was okay to embrace baking, which is like the domestic arts, which felt a little regressive, right? And so, I think sometimes people would come into the bakery and just see me, chefing it up, frosting cupcakes, and have like a certain idea of me, right? Yeah. Here's a young girl who loved to bake, which was true at the time, and look at her cute little business and underestimate me. But, it's frustrating. But I also feel like with the right mindset, being underestimated can be really motivating, right? And it can be sort of a fun challenge, right? They don't see you coming. They don't know that you have a background in investment banking. They don't know that it's not just your cute little business, that you have big dreams. And so, yes, there were moments like that. There were moments where I had to pick my battles. Like, for example, if we were, looking to sign a lease and we were working with like commercial realtors, right?
Yeah.
That's when I would send my husband in. Like they didn't want to, negotiate with me. And it's like, you know what? I don't have to prove myself here. Charles,
this is the best deal.
Yes. So. Yeah. This is you. Yeah. And was I aware of that sort of divide? Sure. But there's certain times when you just need to keep doing business. And I think the best way to sort of, come out of that and sort of surprise people is just by succeeding. Right. In spite of their doubts or their, that makes underestimating sense. You.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. Hopefully that's not something that anyone has to worry about in the future, but it is,
it's a very real thing. I mean, just from an investor standpoint now, like the statistics around women founded businesses getting funded by VCs, it's less than 2%. It's less than 2%. It's like abysmal. Right. And so all we can do, I mean, there's a lot of noise about it. There's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of people writing about it, but the statistic isn't changing. And it's like, it's probably only going to change when all of those male VCs actually start to see these females like building unicorns and like, having liquidity events and making them lots and lots of money. That's when things are going to change.
Yeah. I roll for the people that are listening and not watching. I guess moving onto this, do you think that's still that like starting sprinkles, putting, your savings into it, like you were saying, do you feel like that was your biggest risk, or do you feel like a bigger risk came later?
No, for sure. Like we took our little nest egg of life savings, which was just from being in the corporate world, in investment banking, you get a big bonus at the end of the year. So it's not like I was socking away. No, I was living on my paycheck. But then at the end of the year in investment banking, you get a nice little bonus. And then Charles had sold a small company, so he'd had a little bonus. But like, it wasn't like, I mean, we were living very modestly, eating Trader Joe's salads, but working on this business for like 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we were, living it up.
Right.
We had a certain amount of money that we could devote to living expenses and building this business. And that's all we had. And we knew nobody was going to fund us. I mean, everybody told us this idea was nuts.
Crazy, yeah.
Right. We were like two out of work investment bankers looking to bet it all on cupcakes. Like nobody's going to fund that idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it was really stressful actually. I mean, the sacrifices that we had to make, like just even, I was still driving around. My parents gave me a used Saab when I went away to college. And by the time I got to Los Angeles, which was, I don't know how many years after college, like this car was on its last legs. Like I remember one time driving down Santa Monica, it was like right in the middle of West Hollywood, and it broke down right in front of the coffee bean.
No.
And like everybody's out like doing their like people watching, drinking their, ice blendeds. And I am like broken down on the side of the road. It was so mortifying.
Oh my God.
But it's like, I couldn't get a new car. We had to get a new mixer, right?
Right.
And so, it's very real. And it was sort of a ticking clock. And, we're just very fortunate that we were able to be successful early on and start to cash flow early on. And that's how we made it. But it's very real risk when you're betting it all on yourself and bootstrapping. And I like to remind people I had the luxury of not having children at the time. I did not own a house that I was paying a mortgage on. We were paying the rent. We knew that if we didn't make it, we could kind of dust ourselves off and start over and go back and get a job. People come to me now and they're like, well, I have to get kids through private school and this and that. And it's like, that's a different scenario.
Right.
I have a harder time saying like, go throw it all, jump off this cliff and bet it all on XYZ when you have very real responsibilities and dependence.
Yeah. Real mouths to feed.
Yeah, that takes
consequences.
That takes more planning.
Yeah.
So I don't want to make light of it, but I do also feel like if you really believe in your idea and yourself, you do kind of have to go all in.
Right.
You can't half-ass it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in that way, it forces you to do that.
Exactly.
You really are putting everything into it.
Yeah.
It is that, make or break sort
exactly
of situation. And then, okay, the risk, obviously you got a big reward from Sprinkles.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you've done in business that you've regretted? You wish you could have done differently?
Oh, in business, let's see. I mean, I think...
Or in general. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, just thinking back to my early days as an entrepreneur, I didn't have that much in the way of mentorship, and I didn't have that many role models for women founders. And so I kind of had this idea that was not correct, that entrepreneurship was like me taking on the world like as a solo show.
Okay.
And as we know with children, it takes a village. And I would say the exact same with business. Like I was so lucky to have my husband who is incredible and supportive, and we had each other to rely on and celebrate the wins and also like help each other when we were not feeling so winning. But you need more than that. You need people you can just pick up the phone, other, friends who are in the same position as you, who just get it. Right. And even just like mommy friends, like I really sort of felt very isolated in my journey. And so I think the mistake I made was that mindset of like, that's just what entrepreneurship is. It's a lonely journey.
Right.
That's what it has to be. So I sucked it up instead of really reaching out to people and trying to build my own network of support. And now these days, I think there's so many incredible communities for women in business, for female founders specifically, and you can kind of just like plug into those. But I wish I had been more intentional about like sort of assembling my own board of support to help me through such a challenging journey.
Yeah. No, I totally understand and resonate with that. And I mean, I also on my entertainment side, I want to be a producer and a director, and I've been in the industry for so long that I've seen that. I have seen people start, from just the bare minimum, trying to, put on a short story, like a short film or start something and think that they have to take it on. And it is really, it's negative. Or new directors or actors becoming directors and thinking that they know it all or thinking that they have to do it all. And not relying on the people that, are experts in their own field. And that's how you end up succeeding is by finding your community and people that are going to help push it forward. So implementing that into the businesses that I want to create. I see that. And I can see how important that is. And really leaning on people's strengths.
Right.
You don't know it all. You can't know it all. It's, you kind of have to be the director of it, and rather than
absolutely
using that in my industry. But like, that is the getting everybody together, making sure that everybody has the same goal versus trying to battle everyone else to get there. It's a hard,
no, it is.
It's a really hard thing to do.
It's really stepping into your own leadership, right? And also having the self-awareness to know what you're good at and what you're not as good at. Because to your point, we can't do it all. And even though sometimes maybe you're embodying that role for the first time, so you think you have to be that person that knows it all, or wants to be, or maybe you're power hungry or control freak and you don't want to delegate, which I can relate to.
I can relate to that as well.
Yeah. But and I just remember the early days in Sprinkles was like frosting every cupcake and like packing every box because I just had to make sure everything was perfect. But it's like my vision was much bigger than that one store. So if I didn't let go, like I was never going to get there.
Right.
So
you said it in that little piece way better. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
No, you said it perfectly.
I said it in like a minute instead of in that short, 5 seconds. But yes, and I feel like every woman can take that no matter what industry they're going into and resonate with that.
I'm very excited to see you step into your directing and producing. Sasha, you're so creative. I remember when I can't remember what it was your thumbnail for your podcast actually. And I was like, I was looking at your Instagram for the podcast. And I was like, oh my God, like who's your designer? And you're like, that'd be me. I was like, what? Like, what do you not do?
Oh, I appreciate that. That's
so creative and so talented. So I can't wait to see.
Thanks. Yeah. And I can't say everything yet, so we'll chat.
Okay. All right.
Stop recording. Okay, shoot. I have so many questions. Okay, this is a random thing that is really not necessarily related, but did I see that you were born in Indonesia? I know that's like a random fact that like but that was so cool.
Yeah.
When did you come to the States?
So I was born in Jakarta, Indonesia, and then we lived there for a couple of years, and I moved to Hong Kong, and I came to the States when I was like in first grade, moved back to Southeast Asia in 6th grade.
Whoa.
And then was there until I went to boarding school back in the States in 10th grade. So back and forth a lot between the upper Midwest and New England and Southeast Asia. Who knew?
Wow, that's so incredible. And was it just your parents were working there? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
I know. It was really an incredible upbringing and gave me a lot of perspective, obviously. I mean, we're living in Indonesia. We had to boil our water to drink it. And so here I am now with 2 boys growing up in the heart of West LA. I'm like,
where's my cupcake?
I know. I'm like, you know what? We're going to have to give them a global perspective a different way. We're going to have to take them on some international trips and help them understand it's not just about this bubble that they're in, but I'm
sure that they do. And I'm just kidding. But it really
they're sweet.
It's really awesome to travel. I traveled a lot when I was young too, just my parents working all around the world. And I do really think it helps. It really is a great thing for childhood because you gather so many more perspectives. Like you were saying, you think about the world differently. And I think it really does help it just in general, young age to kind of see that and evaluate life differently. But I read that. I was like, what? That's so random.
It is really random.
But really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, a really cool part of childhood. Okay, so Shark Tank.
Yes.
It's so cool.
So fun.
Actually, when I was pregnant during COVID, I watched so many reruns of Shark Tank. But again, just in general, it's so fascinating with businesses. And how did you get involved in that?
So the show reached out to me.
Awesome.
And it was a dream because I love the show. Not only do I love the show, but my kids love the show. So it's one of the few shows that and this happens a lot with their viewership. It's the co-viewing component, right? So families watching it together. And it's really fun because my kids are learning about business from this show. So not only is it really entertaining just in terms of, learning about the products and the founder stories, but like they're starting to learn about valuation and how to negotiate and that sort of thing. So it's been really fun to like, step into the tank for real after watching it for so many years, and just had the best time. I mean, obviously a well-oiled machine. It's in its 15th season.
It's crazy.
And, sat next to Mark Cuban. On the other side was Mr. Wonderful, Lori Grenier, who's such a sweetheart, Damon John, who's hilarious, and made some investments. I can speak about one because it's already aired. It's a company called Gently Soap. Really, really like passionate, young, dynamic founder who grew up struggling with eczema. Like it was like a real problem for her. She like had bald spots because of it. She was always in pain. She was bullied because of it. And she went to school to become an agricultural researcher. So she ended up working in greenhouses and cultivating flowers that had anti-inflammatory properties. So she took these flowers and infused bar soaps with these like calming properties and came out with a soap that's perfect for people with eczema, sensitive skin. It's called Gently Soap, and it smells beautiful, and it's a luxurious experience. So when the show aired September 15th, I think it was, or was it maybe the end of September, it was crazy. Like she sold out within the first week.
Awesome.
And so it's just been the wildest ride. And it's been so much fun for me to be part of it and cheering her on and offering my advice where I can. We just got inventory back in, thank goodness, in time for the holidays.
Nice.
So definitely check it out. Gently Soap on Gently Soap or Amazon.
Love that it's, female founded.
Yes.
And that she has a mentor like you. Incredible.
Thank you.
And an investor, which is also amazing. Someone that she can look up to and follow that path. And I love that. Love that it's natural.
Yes.
Love that it has a great origin story.
Yes.
Like you were talking about.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, I do gift guides all the time. I'd love to throw her.
That would be
love to throw her something there. That's so
Thank you.
cool.
We'll definitely send you some. That would be incredible.
But that's so wonderful.
It was really fun. I have to say, like, the one thing that was challenging for me about being in the tank is that I really had to learn to be aggressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's called the Shark Tank for a reason. Like people are fighting over each other, interrupting each other, trying to get their questions in, trying to get to the heart of the matter, interrupting the founder. Like these are things that I've been socialized not to do. Right.
And trained to be polite.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I really had to get over that fast and in a big way. To like dive in and be part of the show. And I did it. It wasn't easy, but I did it. And it was so much fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like so much fun. It looks enjoyable.
So much fun.
Yeah. That's so cool. And great that you were able to, find, well, it seems like multiple, but find people that you want to be a part of.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have a couple more episodes coming out this season. I'm not going to say whether I make any more investments or not. You'll have to watch and find out.
I will watch it. I definitely will
Thank
watch
you.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you just have it like such a great presence. And going back just a little bit, I know that like my husband and I, we do business together.
Yes.
We're together 24/7, we're obviously parenting together. And I feel like we're one of the few couples that can do that. I feel like a lot of people struggled during COVID. They hadn't spent that much time with their partner. And we were so used to it that didn't really affect us. And we really do incorporate business into our relationship as well. And I love that you and your husband were able to do the same. Do you think that it's, made you stronger? Like, is that something that you think was like a benefit?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he always has my back in personal life and in business and vice versa. Yeah. I can't imagine it being any other way. Like if you have to go out and find a co-founder, that's hard. Like a lot of businesses fail because of the co-founder relationship. And listen, it doesn't always work. To your point, like a lot of people can't imagine working with their spouse.
Right.
But when it does work, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, you're just so aligned on all the fronts. And it's so funny that you bring it up because when I saw your husband down there, I was like, I felt reminded of my husband, Charles.
Aw.
Like I could just tell like he's there's like, you just have each other's back and like you're partners in life and business. And it just was like immediately apparent to me. And it really was reminded of our relationship.
That's cool.
So it's a beautiful thing. You're super fortunate, as I know, we were partners in sprinkles. He was the first person to be like, because as I said, I didn't grow up with models of like female entrepreneurs in my life. I thought I was just on this corporate path. And so I never thought I could start my own business. He was the first person who looked at me and said, I believe in you. You're going to do this and I will support you. And
cool.
That was really hard. I mean, I give him a lot of credit because he was an investment banker. He had his MBA and all of a sudden he was looking at these like banking bros and saying, no, I'm going to go help my wife make cupcakes. And they were like, okay, really, dude?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of the reason why I asked is because that's a big step for him as well. That's like a leap of faith for both of you.
Right.
And not only did he have to believe in you just as much as you believed in yourself, but partnership in business can be difficult for so many reasons. Mm-hmm. Going back to the fact that, you're spending that much time together, it's also, it can be difficult, of course.
Sure.
But
you have to like each other.
Exactly. And you have to have good communication because if you don't,
100%,
that's going to be, it's so difficult to try and navigate that if you, aren't able to talk about everything.
Yeah. And I always say to people, you have to be able to argue well.
Yeah.
As long as you can like disagree and come out the other side, like still liking one another, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. Like that's the key.
Yeah.
I think. In my opinion.
I think that's great. Yeah. It's not pretending that, again, sugarcoating, right? It's not pretending that nothing's ever wrong and that everything is easy,
Right.
But to know that it doesn't matter. It's, it's your ride or die. We're going to figure it out.
Exactly.
Always is just, and then you throw parenting in there and that's like a whole other, that's like a whole other thing.
I know.
But I know, and I rely on his strengths and, and vice versa, which I think is super cool. I guess along this train, and this, I want to reiterate, this is not, doesn't need to be a sexual answer, but I ask everybody this. Yeah, right. I know. What makes you feel sexy? It could be a shower. It could be like, a fun outfit, or it could be with your partner. It doesn't matter.
I think I feel really sexy after I've like had a great workout and I'm like flushed and just like my hair's back and I have no makeup on and I just feel really healthy and fit.
Yeah.
And I did it. And it's like, I do get this good glow. I love that feeling. It helps me feel strong.
I was just about to say like that feeling of being strong. And I guess, moving on to that too. Do you have like a self-care routine that, keeps you going? Cause you're doing so much all the time. Do you have like a path? Can I have it? It's really why I'm asking.
Well, I used to be one of those gym goers that was like really hardcore. And, if I wasn't like really sort of getting a good sweat and getting those endorphins and like pounding my body, like it wasn't a true workout. And I've really changed my thought process on that and my view of exercise. I wanted to feel more sort of healing and good while I'm doing it. And so I really love hiking, walking. I love Pilates. And then I am trying desperately, I kind of go on and off, but trying very hard to stick to my meditation routine. I learned transcendental meditation. I was doing that for a while, but that's like a hefty time investment. Yeah. They say you're supposed to do it twice a day for 20 minutes. And it's like, that's my workout time.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I now use this app called Waking Up and they do like a daily meditation. That's 10 minutes that I love. It's guided. And so I really like that because but I would like to go a little bit deeper into that practice because I need it. I'm very sort of like ADHD and like tend to be like high anxiety and all of these things that I just need to be kind of brought down a little bit. So I'm working on that.
I love that. I would love to say that I do the same with meditation and I don't. I don't. My husband definitely wants to, and he's done like a couple of those guided meditations. We just need to be more dedicated with it. But I just have such a hard time shutting my brain off because
that's why we need it.
I know that's
why we need it.
At least I can say I do Pilates like you do.
Oh,
I do love
so
hiking.
Good. Yeah.
I was going to say mountain crawl.
Yes.
Like, I really do love all of that. And low impact in other ways really, works for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it is hard for me to stick to a routine. Like
Yeah.
I can, lay out all the things that I want to do, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
maybe do like 2 out of the 10. And so I'm working on that.
Consistency.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's that's a little bit more difficult.
I think you're not alone in that journey. You're not alone.
Yeah. At least I'm not like I do everything perfect.
Yeah. No.
Like, well, no,
You're actually relatable.
Yeah.
Sasha?
Yeah.
Wow.
Definitely. That's not my strong suit. Paul, I mean, I just appreciate this so much, and I look up to you, like I've said, probably 10 times in this this session, but I really do.
Thank you. That means a lot.
You're inspiring, both just in what you've done, but also what you're continuing to do, and your passion both with your family and business. And I know that, I mean, women in general, doesn't matter if they want to be a part of business, or they're just family, or have own their own separate goals. Like you really do inspire women all over the world. And
thank you.
I can't wait to see what you continue to do. And I absolutely will be watching you on Shark Tank. I think that is so fun. I hope that I get to the point one day where I am such a successful business owner, or businesses, hopefully businesses, that I get to guest star on Shark Tank.
Yes.
That's another goal. I'm setting that, on the,
you heard it here first.
Board, maybe one day. Yeah. But I really do appreciate it. And
I loved our talk so much. And this has just been selfishly such a good way to catch up and get together. And
absolutely.
Thank you. You're such a light to so many. And I am such an admirer of everything you do. You're such a creative spirit. And I can't wait to see what's next for you as well.
Thanks. Well, awesome. Well, I will be linking everything that Candace is involved with.
Thank you.
Her book, I mean, which I need to read, and I'm excited to read. The long list of things, not just Shark Tank in your book, but pizzas, all of it.
All the things.
All the things. It's so awesome. And seriously, that's so I'm excited for that.
Thank you.
Really
I'm excited to send you some. That'll be great.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And until next time.
And that's a wrap on another empowering episode of Women in the Nude. The conversation doesn't stop here. Stay connected with us by following us on Instagram, Women in the Nude Podcast, for behind-the-scenes sneak peeks, thought-provoking quotes, and updates on upcoming episodes. Subscribe to us on YouTube for full-length video podcasts, Sasha Pieterse, as well as visiting our website, Women in the Nude Podcast, for more resources and past episodes. Thank you for joining us on this naked journey to wellness and self-love. Remember, vulnerability is strength, and by sharing our stories, we empower each other. Special thanks to my amazing producer, Hudson Sheaffer, aka my hot husband, for making this podcast possible.